Last year on Mondays, I recorded short videos on YouTube about books that have impacted me in different genres. And many of you asked if I could just put the audio of those videos up on the podcast. So we're going to. Here in 2021, on Monday morning, we will share with you a book that has impacted my life with the audio from our YouTube videos. If you want to go watch all of them or leave comments, you can go over to YouTube and search Organized 365, where you'll find our channel and be able to see all of the video reviews. Enjoy! Today, I want to talk about my favorite business book from 2019, and it is Small Giants by Bo Burlington. I've been growing Organized 365 since 2012, and my model when I started the business was I'd been in direct sales a lot, so I knew what a direct sales business was like. As I was growing, I started to model my business after other service industries, and I pulled from the manufacturing industry as that was the kind of business my father and my stepfather had grown. But over time, when I was researching podcasts and books and Audible to find answers for how I was growing my corporation, so much of what was out there was about building a company to sell. I didn't want to do that. Building a company to go public. Didn't want to do that. Building a company to establish a franchise, I didn't want to do that. And so I found myself, it was super hard for me to find books, business books specifically about businesses that were private, not being grown for sale, and not going to follow a franchise model, essentially your small business next door. Why aren't there any books about your small business next door? So I mentioned a couple of videos ago about the EOS operating system and how I learned about that. And I now have a coach, John, from Worthy Endeavors. And John has been the ultimate networker and connector. As soon as we started working with our EOS model, I told him I had just read this book, Small Giants. And he said, well, do you know that they have quarterly breakfasts? I said, I did not know. And so he hooked me up and I started going to the quarterly breakfasts and meeting other owners of Small Giants here in the Cincinnati area. So what is a small giant? A small giant has a lot of different definitions, and I'm going to go ahead and read to you all 6 of the characteristics and then tell you about my business. So small giants are run by business owners that have 100% ownership of their company, and they recognize that they have a full range of choices to create any type of business that they want. It was just so liberating for me to hear that I don't have to grow a business to get venture capital funding or to sell or to go public, or I could be a very successful company without doing any of those outwardly focused things that most of the books are talking about. Second, small giants have overcome the enormous pressures on successful companies to take the path they had not chosen and did not necessarily want to follow. Same thing, like I don't want to take my company public. Third, each company had an extraordinarily intimate relationship with the local city, town, or country in which they did business. Having a warehouse now in Westchester has really pulled us into the Cincinnati culture. I would say the end of 2018 and in 2020, I have really sought out local networking opportunities. On Friday, I go to coffee, breakfast, lunch, and sometimes an early dinner with as many people as I can. And I usually have 3 to 5 meetings every single Friday here locally in the Cincinnati, Westchester area. That has been huge for me, stepping out of my online bubble into the real local community that we have. Fourth, they cultivate exceptionally intimate relationships with customers and suppliers based on personal contact, one-on-one interaction, and mutual commitment to delivering on promises. The leaders themselves look to lead in that regard. They are highly accessible and absolutely committed to retain the human dimension of the relationships. Customers respond to them by sending fan mail. Suppliers respond by providing extraordinary service of their own. This is so huge. As I was looking at how Organized 365 was going to grow as a company, I even had some of you specifically reach out to me and say, we know you're growing. We can see that the business is growing. Please do not lose the one-on-one relationship that you have with us. Both me to you through podcasts and now YouTube and Instagram stories, but also our customer service and you knowing the names of the people that are emailing back to you and knowing who's packaging your boxes. That is something that we as Organized 365 are committed to do, and we've chosen to grow a little bit slower so that we can retain that personal one-on-one interaction. Fifth, the companies also had what struck me as unusually intimate workplaces. Yeah, we have that. They were, in effect, functional little societies that strove to address a broad range of their employees' needs as human beings, creative, emotional, spiritual, and social needs, as well as economic ones. To this date, all of my employees are women. I'm not saying it will always stay all women, but they are all women. And so I do feel a huge responsibility and privilege to be able to provide a great place for women to work that are good for them and their families. Sixth, I was impressed by the variety of corporate structures and models of governance these companies had come up with. So I don't have to be a C Corp with this level of executive leadership that's going to do XYZ. I really can choose any kind of company model I want to create or take the best from a couple of different models that I like and create my own corporate structure. And then finally, I noticed the passion that the leaders brought to what the company did. Though they were good business people, they were anything but professional managers. They had deep emotional attachments to the business, to the people who worked in it, and to its customers and suppliers. The sort of feelings that were at the bane of professional management. I almost think that Small Giants is almost like anti-corporate. It's not anti-corporate, but it's kind of like saying that the entrepreneur is going to retain control of the company as it grows, the pace of the growth, the structure, what they decide to offer their benefits for their employees, everything. Like everything is up for decision. Like nothing is a checkbox that you have to do. You get to decide everything you want to do. So some of the things that I decided after reading that book were that I'm not going to go public. I'm not going to accept venture-backed funding, and I'm not going to build my company to sell. That I can slow down growth, whether it's for my family's comfort or the comfort of my employees or just the marketplace. We can slow down growth. We don't have to grow at just any cost. That I can make my own decisions for my team, the team that I have today. I can make different decisions today than I'm going to make 3 years from now or 10 years from now. I'm not locked into making a decision today that I have to do going forward. If it's what works for our team right now, then that could be a decision for right now. And I don't have to give away my control. So there were a couple of times in growing Organized 365 where I felt like to get to the next level, to have the next breakthrough in order to do the next thing, I needed to pay a firm, or I need to hire a specific coach, or I needed to hire a certain employee inside of my company and give them control and ownership of the company so that I could be, quote unquote, freed up to do other things. And what I've decided is I like talking to you and I like going to the warehouse and distracting all of my employees and moving everything around. And I like it. Like, I love being a business owner. I like being an inspirational teacher. I like all the pieces of my business. And if I like all the pieces of my business, do I really have to hand those off? And the more I started looking into who I was reading about who had sold their businesses or created certain business models, they didn't stay in business very long. But when I thought about my father and my stepfather, both who owned their companies for 25 years, they didn't have those structures in place that all these books say that you have to have. And one had a $10 million company and the other one had a $25 million company. They weren't constantly hiring and constantly firing. They had very intimate relationships with all of their suppliers and all of their employees and all of their customers. So when I really started looking at true small businesses that I had grown up around, they weren't following some of the online flashy news stories or the books that are written by people that have done this in one company once or had a company for 3 years and then sold it or got a huge amount of venture-backed money and then moved on. They were people that invested their own money and mortgaged their own houses to start these businesses and created really awesome companies and a family of companies. So you could tell I'm a little passionate about this book. So I love this book. I've listened to it twice on Audible, and then I bought the hard copy so I could go through and highlight some things. I do go to the quarterly Small Giants breakfast as well. All right, you're going to come back next week, and we are going to deep dive into a female founder. Wonder who it's going to be.